Everyone, thank you for joining me back at my new channel, True Crime with Jess Rose. And like I said in my last video, which was the Shannon Matthews story, today I'd like to talk about the Tia Sharp story, featured on the show I've been looking at, which is Faking It, Tears of a Crime. And this goes back to the 2nd of August 2012, where there was an emergency services call made to report a young girl missing. Her name's Tia Sharp. She's 12, no prior history of running away. Immediately, given a high risk red flag, the police are out, contacting family members, friends. It's very unusual for this girl. She stays in touch with everyone. So they start looking nearer to the family, because you do hear on a lot of these shows when someone goes missing, they start at the immediate family and work their way out. So when they question the immediate family, the house she was stopping at was actually her grandmother's, and her granddad lives there, but actually he's her step-granddad. But he's been in her life since she was 2, so the only granddad she's ever known, it's the nan's partner, and he plays the granddad role. She always idolises him. So when they're looking into the case and trying to see if there's any footage of this girl from leaving the grandmother's house, the last person to see her was Stuart Hazel, and her step-granddad, and he said she left the house at 12 o'clock. She was going to meet friends in Croydon city centre, so she would have been picked up somewhere along the way, whether it be by a witness or CCTV footage. Now, there was a witness that come forward, a neighbour, turns out to be a friend of Stuart Hazel's, that said, yeah, I seen her. She walked past my house. She definitely left the grandmother's house when Stuart said she did. So although the police have got this statement back at the station, because there's no footage of her anywhere, and also she left the house without her phone and her bus pass, a preteen without her phone, very unusual in itself. Going to meet her friends, no bus pass, it's a little bit odd. So they start investigating Stuart himself, and it turns out he's got a lot of prior convictions of, he's done time for drug dealing, assault. It turns out he's not a very nice guy. It doesn't mean he's done anything, but it puts a bit of a shadow over his character. And when they ask him, what happened, what were her last movements, he said she got up, she got ready, she was leaving to go and meet her friend. She left the house. He said, don't be late, or, be back for dinner time, something along those lines. And off she pops. She goes. That was his story. Now, like I say, they were looking at footage from prior to her, being reported missing after. And the only footage they could find was of Tia and Stuart Hazel just in a shop the day before, on the 1st of August. Just her doing a normal, like a preteen. She's looking at magazines, they're together. They seem like, it's quite a friendly interaction between them. But that's the only thing they can find. There's a lot of questions. Why can't they find this girl on any footage whatsoever? So after 3 days, they do a search of the grandmother's house, because, like I say, they start directly with family and work the way out. They haven't had all the answers they need from the family, so they still concentrate their search within the family home and the family members. This girl's disappeared into thin air, basically. Her mum's distraught. She sent her to her grandmother's. She hasn't seen her since. The grandmother was at work, so she can't cast any light on the situation. Again, she's just disappeared into thin air. So they do a search of the house, and when they're doing this search, a police officer goes up into the loft. It turns out it wasn't a very thorough search. It was a quick glance over, and down they came. The house is, you know, deemed clear, there's nothing wrong, there's no evidence of foul play in the house. And, you know, they kind of shut that down. And, you know, that was on the third day. So they're still following lines of inquiry. In the meantime, much like the Shannon Matthews case with their community, Tia Sharp's family had a lot of friends, a lot of the community get involved. They'd done a candlelight vigil, and you can see on the show it's so lovely. They light all candles like a path to bring her home. You know, Stuart Hazel's obviously among them, wearing a foreign Tia, you know, shirt, a t-shirt. He puts his arm around her dad. You know, her mum and dad weren't together, but obviously her dad's there. You know, where's my daughter? Obviously, everyone's very distraught. It's a real sad moment, and they're, like I say, lighting all these candles. So on the fourth day now, the press are camped out, you know, permanently outside the grandmother's house now. I think because the press have got wind of Stuart's prior history, they'd already found him guilty. You know, they were asking him those questions. Have you killed her? Where is she? You know, he was going through a lot, and he appeared very upset about it, you know, very aggravated by it. And if your grandchild, step or not, has gone missing, and the finger of blame is being pointed at you, of course you're going to be aggravated by it. You know, they'd kind of found him guilty based on nothing at that time, other than he had a bit of a bad life prior to this. So 5 days, Tia's been missing now, and they do a second search of the grandmother's home, not the family home, but the grandmother's home, and they send cadaver dogs in. But because there's a lot of family constantly at the house, again, like Shannon Matthews, all the family, the friends, everyone's involved trying to bring this girl home. The cadaver dog, they got confused by all the scents, so they didn't find anything, you know, and they've come out. So all the lines of inquiry the police go into, they're hitting a brick wall, and where they're really concentrating on, which is Stuart Hazel, they are concentrating on him. There's no two ways about it. It's coming up blank. It's coming up blank every time, and he's obviously been, you know, he's been blamed a lot. So he wants to clear his name. So look, not a press conference as such, but an appeal is done within the grandmother's house on the 6th day. And so the press are there, you know, there's a guy interviewing him, and it's a 40-minute interview. We don't see all of that. It's a 40-minute interview, but there's intervals within that, like little breaks and stuff. And he's very distraught in the interview, begging for Tia to come back, mention something, you know, you owe me some money. You know, her uncle's next to him, you know, they're wearing the t-shirts. At the back of them are all missing posters of Tia. It's the whole part. You know, he cries. He actually brings up that the press are accusing him. And the reporter, the interviewer, actually says, well, have you done anything? And he's like, no, I bloody haven't. You know, he gets quite all right at being asked that. You know, he's trying to defend himself in this interview, but again, like Karen Matthews, it's what messes him up, because on the 7th day, now the day after this interview's taken place, the police come round again with the cadaver dogs. They've had enough. They get everybody out of the house. You know, they're not messing about anymore. It's been a week since this girl's gone missing. Everyone's out of the house. They give it a little bit of time for all the scents to calm down. They send the dogs in, and automatically, you know, the dogs start barking, you know, show signs that there's a dead body in this house. And the dogs lead them up to the loft, and where the first search had taken place, and someone had looked in that loft, you know, I don't know who the police officer was, you know, they must have a lot of guilt for this, I would believe, but it was a mistake. But Tia was actually in the loft, obviously dead. She's wrapped up in a carpet and in bags. But it's August, and you know, sooner or later she was gonna announce herself. You know, in that heat, in the loft, wrapped up. You know, that smell was going to appear sooner or later, and I think Stuart Hazel must have realised this, because Stuart Hazel, when this search was announced, done a runner. Why would you do a runner if you're innocent? And he's going around Croydon, trying to get away, and he's seen in shops, very drunk, asking people if they've seen Tia, and he's arrested at 3 o'clock that afternoon, brought in for questioning. And while that's going on, they do a real thorough search of the house, which should have been done beforehand. People have held their hands up. There was mistakes made. There was human error. She should have been found on that third day, really, but it was a week later. And they do a thorough search of the house. And they find a SIM card hidden in the frame of a door. And when they look at it, it turns out Stuart Hazel had a very unhealthy interest in his step-granddaughter. There was a lot of filming on it. What looks like there's one video of her creaming her legs, just like a child would, putting cream on her legs. She probably just got out of the bath or something. And he maybe was pretending to be texting, but in fact he was recording her. There's another really creepy recording of him. She was asleep and he walks into her bedroom. She's quite obviously asleep, and really creepy, you can see his shadow on the wall where he's recording her, and obviously the lights come on and you can see him leaning over her bed recording her. Very unhealthy interest in this poor girl. No one was aware of it. No one knows how long it was building up for. It was there, but no one knew. No one realised. He played the granddad very well. Plus, don't forget, there was a neighbour saying that they'd seen Tia, throwing them completely off the scent. It turns out this guy was not only a friend of Stuart Hazel's, but I believe quite intimidated by Stuart Hazel, and he was told, say you've seen her, kind of thing, throw everyone off the scent. It didn't work. He must have realised there was no sign of her anywhere else, barring that house, that, she didn't pop up anywhere. She was never going to turn up anywhere else. It was just awful. And of course they brought the grandmother in as well. It was her home. How could she not be aware for a whole week that her granddaughter was dead in the loft above her? She didn't. She said there's been many an interview with her, and she's out and out said she'd have killed him herself. She'd have known. It was, she'd been with him for 10 years, I think. She had no idea that this guy, like I say, he had prior convictions of violent crime, drug dealing, nothing to suggest a paedophile kind of streak in him. Well, paedophile full stop, really, let's face it. She didn't have a clue. None of the family had a clue. He had his arm around her dad, for goodness sake, at the vigil. And on the show, the three experts, they actually take apart the interview he did on the 6th day, where he's pleading his innocence and begging for her to come home. And it's so interesting because, like I say, you see this interview, he plays the grieving, really concerned granddad so well. And yet, when you watch it back with these experts, you're like, oh my God, I didn't notice that. Look, when he's asked certain questions, his ears go red. his ears go really red, and you'd be like, well, what does that mean? Apparently it's a sign of blood pressure. When your blood pressure's going up, when you're getting stressed, and basically a sign of you're not really telling the truth. His ears gave him away, you know, and the listener, that was the watcher who picked up on these things, like the body language and stuff. The listener, the linguistics expert, she picked up, he came out with, he slipped up himself, basically. He said something along the lines of, I don't want to find you in a field. He said it very quick, so I certainly didn't pick up on it. He, you know, he kind of carried on talking again afterwards, but she did. And she said, why would you say that? What on earth would you say, I don't want to find you in a field? It was a very random thing to say. So again, proving that these people out there who think they're so clever committed the perfect crime. What the profiler in the show believes he thought he could do was, but obviously get away with this. That's the be all and end all of it. And what had happened was, Tia had stopped over, like I said, the night. Then grandmother was at work. It was a sexual assault. You know, it was. It's believed possibly she's woke up, or she screamed, or she's fought. You know, she's 12 years old. She knows this is wrong. You know, and he's killed her. He's killed her. It was quite a violent end. You don't even want to, you know, what was, she would have trusted him. It was her granddad. You know, you can't imagine what she must have thought and felt in her last moment. You know, someone she trusted, someone who'd been in her life as long as she remembered, you know, wanting to hurt her. And, you know, this would have been the first she'd have realised anything like this. You know, there was nothing prior to this. Obviously, the grandmother and mother were not aware he had this obsession with Tia. And no one would have known had this SIM card not been found, and highlighted the build up to this. You know, no one realised, you know, everyone questioned, where did this come from? You know, it was a petty crime, really, to escalate to murder. How's that happened? And there was a builder. He just was very, I don't even want to say clever, I don't want to give him that title, really, but he kept it very quiet. So the neighbour that gave him kind of an alibi, if you like, it was kind of Stuart Hazel's alibi by saying he'd seen Tia. He got 5 months in prison, and so he should have got more. You know, that poor little girl should have been found so much sooner than she was. You know, her grandmother and mother didn't get to see her. You know, she was so decomposed by the time she was found. You know, it's heartbreaking enough, but not to be able to, you know, doesn't bear thinking about. So he got 5 months. Stuart Hazel, obviously charged with murder, sexual assault. He got 38 years to life. You know, hopefully it will be life for this man. He's, you know, she trusted him. The whole family trusted him. They invited him into the family. You know, there's kind of, it's not pointed out on the show, and I do like to tend to stay with what I've seen and heard from the show. You know, that's what this channel's about. But I am aware that before he dated the grandmother, he actually went out with Tia's mum. Not for very long. I think it was a couple of weeks. I think it was a very short-lived relationship. And then moved on to the grandmother. And part of me, so, you know, did he have Tia in his line of sight from right back then? And when the mum finished with him, he moved to the grandmother to be able to stay close to her. I don't know. That's just my own theory on it. I don't know. I don't know. That's never been confirmed or denied. But yeah, very, very sad case. And I'm glad that man hopefully will be locked up for the rest of his life. You know, 38 years, you know, he'll still be able, he was quite young, so he'll still be able to get out and, you know, kind of live his life if he gets out there. And so hopefully he'll be kept in. you know, life should mean life, especially in cases like this, especially with children. You know, it's just awful. It's awful. I can't imagine what that little girl went through that night. Any thoughts on it, or, you know, any comments, anything, you know, you'd like me to look at, please pop in the comments. I'll pop a link in the bottom. She managed to stay out of the video for the whole time, so sorry, she's been quite good. So the next video I'd like to do would be the Soham case, the Holly and Jessica case, that you might remember. Very, very sad case in Huntley Maxine Carr, you know, so that will be the next one I'd like to talk about. And I'd love you to join me for that. And thank you for joining me for this. And like I say, any comments, greatly appreciated. Hit the subscribe button as well if you feel like it. And I'll see you all very soon. Thank you again for joining me.